As the sun sets on a Saturday in the big city, the Mets are about halfway through a big day of baseball. One win already under their belts. And now, as the fans come in for Game 2, the Mets look for a day-night sweep of those fighting Phils. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Philadelphia Phillies. Mets baseball is presented in HD by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. I'm Gary Cohen. Keith Hernandez joins me in just a moment as the Mets play the back end of a day-night doubleheader against the Philadelphia Phillies. This afternoon, R.A. Dickey threw 6 1/3 hitless innings before he had his no-hit bid broken up. The Mets won it late with a run in the 7th and a run in the 8th and beat the Phillies 2-1, handing the Phillies their 7th straight loss. And Keith, a very well-played first game. Mets played good defense. They ran the bases well and got some great pitching.
Well, R.A. is just another no decision for R.A. and just another fine performance. And it's a shame, but that's baseball. It's the first game where the Mets used their running game. Jose Reyes stole a base. Tejada stole a very key base late, and David Wright followed with an RBI double that won the ball game, put the Mets ahead. So something we haven't seen from the Mets running. Reyes seems to spark this team. He is not in the lineup tonight. Tejada is playing shortstop.
So Reyes still leading the National League in batting. And what about Valentino Pascucci? Comes off the bench in the 7th inning for a game-tying home run.
His first home run in, 7 years? And a pinch hit for Pridey in the 8-hole. So Terry Collins pushing the right button there. Cole Hamels. It's so interesting how you can go 6 innings. I've seen it all year. Goose eggs. Team scores a run. The other team follows. Pascucci pinch hitting and hits the home run and ties the ball game.
So the Phillies, since clinching the National League East, have lost 7 in a row, and Dylan G will try and make it 8 tonight.
Well, Dylan G, you recall, started out 7-0, and since then has been 5-6 and has struggled. The 25-year-old, this has been a learning year for him. I still think he's got tremendous potential. He's won 12 ball games on the year. That's fantastic. This is a game for him to get back on the winning track. He's had 2 no decisions his last 2 times out. I know he'd like to win his 13th.
And veteran Joe Blanton, on the shelf for most of the year with elbow problems, will make his first start since May for Philadelphia.
Well, there was talk that Blanton may be on the postseason roster. I don't think so. My opinion is that Vance Worley has pitched so wonderfully for the Phillies team that he deserves a spot on the postgame roster. But this is Blanton coming off elbow surgery or elbow problems. He's a big part of this team going forward in the future.
Blanton expected to pitch 2 or 3 innings tonight, his first start in 4 months. Mets go for the sweep against the Phils tonight. All the action coming your way right here on SNY. with IOTV. By Pepsi Max. By Budweiser, great times are waiting. Grab some buds. By Topps, unlock cards, win diamonds, and dig for prizes at DiamondTopps.com. And by State Farm, today's State Farm agent of the day is Alan Wheeler of Brooklyn. Contact Alan's office at alanwheeler.biz. Visit the official online shop of the Mets at Mets.com. Browse the largest online selection of authentic team gear, including official caps, t-shirts, jerseys, collectibles, and more. Get your team gear straight from the source. Shop the Mets.com shop. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV, and you can listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Only 4 games to go after today. Tomorrow, remember, the game's been pushed back to 2 o'clock. That game's on Pix 11. Final game of the series with the Phillies. And then the Cincinnati Reds are in Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon. And that's it till April 5th next year.
I didn't know the Mets had 4 off days in a row.
Dylan G's final start of the year. Beautiful sunset in New York. First pitch is coming right up. Game card for a chance to win World Series tickets. Compliments of Scott's. Check out the Phillies starting lineup for tonight, brought to you by Ford. No Ryan Howard, he started the first game, but Hunter Pence starting for the first time in the last 4. He's had a little bit of a knee problem, pinch hit in the first game. And Chase Utley, who has really struggled, particularly after getting hit in the helmet by an Eric O'Flaherty pitch 3 weeks ago. He's in there in his accustomed 3 spot in the batting order. The Phillies have scored just 38 runs in their last 16 games. It's been an offensive brownout for Philadelphia.
And tonight's starting pitcher for the Mets, Dylan G. 12-6 on the year with a 4.48. And as we said in the open, after that 7-0 start, it's been a little bit of a struggle for him. And that's all part of a learning process for a young pitcher. Rookie pitcher at that, and he has not fared well against the Phillies in his 2 appearances this year. 1 in relief and 1 as a starter. And we'll take a look at the Lexus Metsy defense. And Tejada Over at shortstop now, Reyes is not going to play the doubleheader, of course, with his leg problems. Harris gets a second start in this doubleheader. So does Priddy. Nick Evans also in right field. And at first base, Mr. Satin.
Mets missing their entire starting outfield. 2 headaches and a sinus infection. Felling, Pagan, Duda, and Bay. Bay started the first game, had to come out after 3 innings. He told Terry Collins that just running back and forth to his position, he was so tired, so he clearly was not over what had been ailing him. So Bay sits in the second game, and Mets play an unusual outfield combination with Evans, who made a spectacular play in right field when Dickey was working on the no-hitter in game 1.
And can I say one thing, too? We get a shot at David Wright over at third base. You know, David's out there every day. It's been a tough year for David, but David plays every day, and I tip my hat to him.
Jimmy Rollins playing both ends of the doubleheader, getting set to lead things off against G. Well, the Phillies have now lost more games since clinching their division than any team in history. 7 straight losses. No team's ever done that before. Lose 7 in a row after clinching. And I think that's one of the reasons why Rollins and Victorino are playing both ends of the doubleheader. The Phillies, they need a win just to get things back on the rails.
Well, we talked about it in the first game. You know, the last week of the season, you don't want to go in, you know, on a tailspin. And this team has been struggling offensively. But boy, their gold in the bank is their starting rotation.
And G starts off Rollins with a fastball for a strike. Jimmy 0 for 3 in the opener, 0 for his last 16, hitting .260 for the year. And the curveball ripped into right field, a base hit for Rollins. So the coaching staff has been on G to throw his curveball more, so he throws one the second pitch of the game, and Rollins gets a hit.
Yeah, but he gets down on this one. He gets underneath it, and there's a hanger. He needs to get on top. Well, every pitcher does, and not every pitcher can consistently throw in a 9-inning game a curveball the way he wants. There was a hanger.
Yeah, but the question is, when he throws it that pitch and gets a bad result out of it, will he be willing to throw it again, or is he going to shelve it, which is what has happened in the past? Victorino bounces one toward the hole, and he sneaks a base hit through. Rollins goes to second and stops there, so back-to-back hits for 2 hitters who had been ice cold, Rollins and Victorino, to start the game.
Well, I do think, Gary, that the message is to Dylan is that you cannot be a fastball changeup pitcher, and you need a third pitch. And the fact that if he had a mediocre curveball, they wouldn't be so insistent. The coaching staff wouldn't be so insistent on him throwing it. But he has a good curve.
So here's Chase Utley with 2 men on and nobody out. Utley didn't play in the opener, hitting a .257 for the year, and it's been certainly has not been the best year for Utley. Started the year on the disabled list, coming off knee problems, and then more recently hit in the helmet by a pitch, and he has just not hit the way Chase Utley is accustomed to hitting. Hunter Pence sitting cleanup, waiting on deck. And so it's been a big source of discussion in the Philly camp as to whether Charlie Manuel will keep Utley in the 3-hole once the postseason begins. And G behind him 2-0.
Well, there's Chase's career numbers, and he is really, we've had a great fortune to watch him come up and develop and become one of the premier players in baseball. And watch his progression. Very quiet guy, doesn't show much emotion, but comes out and is workmanlike, blue collar, plays the game right, plays the game hard. And you know the Mets have had some bad blood with him. He has made some slides that the Mets thought were a little over the top at breaking up double plays. I didn't think they were. I don't think they were.
And the Mets have gone after him on double plays at times, too.
Yep, and that's competition. That's fair.
Nice pitch by G on the inside corner, and it's 2-2.
You know, we don't have to like each other between 9 innings, you know. It's the way it should be.
Do you even have to like each other after the game?
That you don't have to that either. There's a lot of guys I couldn't stand.
Would you like to make a list?
I care about you, though, Gary, very deeply.
Well, we're teammates after all.
Here's the 2-2, and Utley bounces one foul.
I mean, I noticed that between games you're hanging out with Gary Matthews. You guys played against each other. Hard-nosed competition,
yes,
but able to, share a laugh after the game.
Gary and I have been friends since I was 19 years old, and I actually took him over to Parkside over in Corona for a little meal. He met the troops over there. They gave us a fine meal.
Always a good meal to be had at Parkside. 3-2 now to Utley with Pence on deck. I trust you handled yourself properly in terms of your ingestion between games.
I had penne alla vodka, a little side of that, which was off the diet. And then I had very much on the diet the veal piccata.
Very nice. Just the right amount of lemon?
Iced tea.
Thank goodness. 3-2 to Utley with nobody out, and G struggling to find himself early in this game.
So will they run the runners here with speed on the bases? And I think they probably will. Utley is a guy that's tough to strike out.
And if you're right, do you hold your position or go to cover the bag if they take off? Not going, and it's ball 4. The bases are loaded. So after a couple of hits, Utley draws a walk, and G's got himself a big mess to try and pitch out of in the first inning.
And this is something that we didn't see from Dillon. He was so much in command and early in his starts. As you look at Hunter Pence, who they picked up from the Houston Astros, I thought one of the big pickups of any of the teams via trade to improve their ball club. And he's been their right fielder. He's a hard-nosed player also. But back to G. Is that, people find out, okay, he's got a great changeup, and it gets around the league, and then it's up to the hitters make adjustments, then it's up to the pitcher to make adjustments. And this is what he's going through right now.
Pence pinch hit in the first game. Swings at the first pitch and bloops one foul. Pence, when he pinch hit in the opener against Miguel Batista in the 8th inning, did not look good. You took a couple of pitches for strike 2 and strike 3, and just looked like he wasn't seeing the ball very well, but he's been bothered by a knee injury that's kept him out for a couple of days.
I think he got caught looking, particularly on the third strike, Gare. Fastball right down the middle, and he's looking for a breaking ball. He's a guy that wears his pants high, shows his socks.
Started the day 4th in the National League in batting at .312. And he bounces one back to G. Out at the plate, Tolley with the relay for the 1-2-3 double play. So G gets exactly what he needs. The comebacker from Pence. 2 out.
Well, the Phillies got to be shaking their head. Slider got him out in front, and he looked down as he was running to first base. He knew he was a dead duck.
And G, who's not always in the best fielding position, able to make that play to start the 1-2-3 double play. So now 2 out runners at second and third, and John Mayberry steps in. 0 for 3 in the opener. Mayberry played right field in the first game. He's playing left field in this game, not center.
And we noticed earlier in the year, if you'll just take note, you folks at home, watch how crouched young John Mayberry Jr. is. And he wasn't that way last year, and that's an adjustment that he's made, and it's been good for him. He's hit 15 home runs. He's really had himself a pretty fine season.
He had a wonderful at bat in the 9th inning of the first game against Manny Acosta. Acosta got ahead of him 0-2, and Mayberry did a great job laying off some borderline pitches to draw the walk.
And that was Manny's game, too. He wanted him to swing at a bad pitch, and he really showed a lot of patience. But you can see him bent over and crouched.
A little cutter from G, low and away, and he falls behind Mayberry 2-0. First base open. You got a left-hand hitter on deck in Ross Gload. Now, G has been way more effective against left-hand hitters this year than he has against the righties, in part because of that good changeup. Righties are hitting .273 against him. The lefties just .190.
But he's got to be careful with Gload. He's a veteran hitter.
And Mayberry pops it up, and G's going to get himself out of the inning. Satin comes in to grab it, and the Phillies have the bases loaded and nobody out, and they do not score. Escape job by G. No score at Citi Field. Second game, so Ruben Tejada slots in the leadoff spot. Willie Harris hitting third for the second time this season. David Wright had the game-winning hit in Game 1, an eighth-inning double, and the Mets go up against Joe Blanton, his first start in more than 4 months.
Well, you see Blanton's numbers, they haven't been good, but he was injured, acquired from Oakland.
Ruben Tejada, first pitch swinging, a one-hopper to Jimmy Rollins. One pitch and one out for Blanton.
And we'll take a look at the Fighting Phils Coors Light. I'll emphasize that. Coors Light Philadelphia defense. Hunter Pence, 10 outfield assists. He's got a terrific arm, very accurate. But also the Golden Glover in center field, and that is Shane Victorino. And that makes out for a pretty good little outfield out there defensively.
Here's Justin Turner. Didn't play in the opener today. Last time we saw Justin, he was drawing a bases-loaded walk in that 6-run ninth inning Thursday in St. Louis. And he takes a strike from Blanton. Justin at .263 for the year. And that RBI for Turner was his 50th, so the Mets have 2 rookies with 50 RBIs, Duda and Turner. Give you an idea just how much playing time some of the young guys have gotten this year with the Mets.
And Turner, much like Dylan G, young and first season, more playing time than he ever imagined. Started the season in Buffalo in AAA. Hot start for quite a long time. He's slowed a bit. And he's a guy that's been banged up. And I think, Gary, we've talked about it before. You know, he's a hard-nosed guy. He hangs in there and turns double plays. But I think he's got to start recognizing when he can't turn to and get the heck out of there. Because he's taken a beating on some hard slides.
Rollins on the backhand, plants and fires, and he gets Turner by a stride, 2 away. So Jimmy Rollins playing both ends of the doubleheader, makes 2 plays to start the bottom of the first.
Well, plant and throw. There you go. Know your runner's speed. Turner, not a real blazer, average speed. He's a veteran, and the question is, will he be back next year in the Philadelphia uniform, Garrett?
He's a free agent, and there's been some talk that negotiations have been going on between the Phillies and Rollins about a possible 3-year deal. Here's Willie Harris with 2 out. Harris 0 for 2 in the opener, but he drew a walk his first time up in that game, and he has been swinging the bat really well coming down the stretch. So Harris, with all the starting outfielders out for the Mets, gets the 3 spot in the batting order. A ball and a strike to Harris. Willie has good career numbers against Blanton, 6 for 17 with a couple of home runs. Blanton's last start was the 14th of May in Atlanta. He went 5 innings that day, lost 5-3, and went on the shelf for the second time with elbow problems that kept him out until September. Line into right center, a base hit for Harris, and so the Mets have their first base runner. Willie with a 2-out single. Blanton's made a few relief outings since returning. The plan is for Blanton to go 2 or 3 innings tonight, nothing more. Probably backed up by Kyle Kendrick after that.
Well, he got jammed and muscled it out for a base hit. You'll take those any day of the week.
So now David Wright 1 for 3 in the opener. He doubled right over the third base bag to drive in the go-ahead run in the 8th inning. 59 RBIs now for David. And Harris takes off first pitch. No throw by Schneider on a ball in the dirt. And Harris has his 5th stolen base of the year. Well, the Mets were off and running in the first game against Cole Hamels and stole 3 bases.
Well, I think they're inspired here playing the Phillies, and that is just too good a jump. I think, Gary, you might have stole that base with that jump.
I doubt that sincerely.
Oh, well, my money's with you.
I hope it's expendable. Never spend the rent money. 2-0 to Wright with Nick Evans on deck. Mets now have 127 stolen bases for the year. For a long time they were leading the league, but that's before Reyes got hurt the first time. Now they're tied for second, well behind the Padres.
And even David Wright, who's good for stolen bases, he's just shut it down too.
Down to third. Hop comes up on Valdez. First goes after Harris, then makes the throw just in time. Well, Valdez had to make 3 adjustments there. Knock the ball down, chase after Harris, and then throw out Wright. And got him by an eyelash at first to get Blanton through the first inning with no score.
Well, Wilson Valdez right there gets that in-between hop. He's playing back, and once you don't charge for the short hop and you get the in-between hop, he just throws out David by a half step. He did the proper thing of keeping his body in front of the ball, particularly with a runner in scoring position, but not even so. In every ground ball where you get that in-between hop. You use your body as a backstop.
Ross Gload leads off the second inning against Dylan G. Gload playing first base in the nightcap, and G floats the curveball high, 1-1. For Gload, only his 10th start of the year, and a bunch of them have come lately, with Ryan Howard suffering with the heel injury.
Well, that's the one good thing about a team when you have a team that it has a breathing room and blows, you know, it pretty much clinches the division, is that you can get your bench player into kind of a groove, give him more playing time. Your guys who you're going to need off the bench late. So it gives them a chance to kind of find a rhythm. That's one of the luxuries of running away with your division like the Phillies have done.
You mean, say, as opposed to like maybe the Boston Red Sox?
The Red Sox are on life support, aren't they?
They got blown out today by the Yankees 9-1. Gload hooks one to right deep. Evans going back. It's over his head and into the Mo zone. And Gload heads for second base with a leadoff double. 7th double of the year for Gload, and the 3rd hit off Dylan G.
I've kind of noticed that the Mets have kind of gone to a play shallow right field. Nice swing by Gload on the change. And, you know, you got that concave back there, the Mo zone, and, you know, just give it up. Give yourself a chance to come in and take a base hit away.
Oh, Evans was able to go back and make a terrific play in the first game today against Jimmy Rollins.
And that was a fly ball.
Here's Brian Schneider getting the start behind the plate in game 2, and he takes a strike.
Nope, the IOTV pitch differential, and it is not away enough. Actually, it's more away, but it's up. I cannot tell you, folks, what a difference it is from a ball belt high and on the knees, particularly when it's a sink. And I'll talk further about that and be more explicit. So when it's down the knees, it sinks. When it stays up and it's in the belt area or up above the belt, it flattens out. And boy, oh boy, it is like an anti-aircraft gun just homing in on an aircraft coming in.
Schneider takes one the other way. So he homed in on that quite nicely. And Schneider, who has done very little hitting this year, has himself a base hit, sending Gloss over to third.
That is a fastball away and belt high. See right at the belt. And it stays flat. You can see that on your TV sitting home in your luxury of your sofa with your wife and kids, I'm sure. And there it is right there. Nicely done by Schneider.
Did you mention the popcorn?
Oh, well, that's a real luxury.
A little butter, melted.
Oh, no, that's bad for you.
Not a little bit. As long as you don't go overboard. First and third and nobody out. Wilson Valdez, who played second base in the first game today, playing third base in the nightcap.
Oh, big swing.
Wilson went 0 for 2 in the first game today. 73rd game that Wilson Valdez has started this year, so he started nearly half the games. Remember, they had Utley hurt for a long time when the year began. Polanco missed quite a bit of time, a couple of stints on the DL.
And he did a heck of a job for him last year.
Filling in for Jimmy Rollins as well.
He's another one of those guys that's got to keep his swing compact. He has a tendency to overswing, get a little bit over aggressive. He's not a home run hitter. He's a line drive hitter. And he has done some damage to the Mets since the Phillies picked him up.
Played for the Mets 2 years ago. Didn't get a whole lot of playing time in New York. Load at third, Schneider at first with nobody out. G gave up 2 straight hits and a walk to start the first inning, but got out of a bases loaded, nobody out jam, and right back in trouble in the second. Ahead on Valdez 0-2. And he goes upstairs 1-2. By the way, we talked about the Red Sox getting blown out today, so at the moment Boston's now 2 games up on Tampa Bay, but the Red Sox keep getting help. Blue Jays got 2 in the top of the first against the Rays, and Toronto's up 2-0.
Well, that's a long way to go in that game. And one thing's for certain, the Red Sox have lost that game.
Well, what hurts even more from the Boston perspective is that Beckett lost day before yesterday. They got rained out last night, and now Lester lost today, got knocked out in the third inning, and those have been the only 2 starters they could have any reliance on So now tomorrow in the doubleheader against the Yankees, they're forced to go deeper into their rotation, Lackey and Wakefield.
And it's always very demoralizing when your top line pitchers get beat, and get beat in a routing fashion, and with a team that is gagging and just trying to tread water, let alone just trying to get breath before they sink. You know, Toronto is really in a position to take control, but I'm sorry, Tampa Bay, but they've got to win.
Right.
That doubleheader the Yankees swept them just, I thought, put a harpoon in them. And it showed me.
And they came from behind in the 8th inning both times.
And yes, and it just showed me something about the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees made a statement there.
3-2 to Valdez with nobody out. And he bounced it foul.
I know you don't like me to say nice things about the Yankees.
Well, if they're appropriate, of course you should.
But it's appropriate. I mean, I did not. The last thing I thought, and there you have the playoff picture, was hot Tampa Bay team coming in and losing, and the Yankees taking 2. That really showed me something.
In that game in St. Pete, Jose Bautista hit his 43rd home run for Toronto. Looped into center field. That's a base hit for Valdez, and that'll bring in Glode with the first run of the game. 3 straight hits for the Phillies to start the 2nd inning, and this time G can't escape. Valdez drives in his 30th run, and it's 1-0 Philadelphia.
Well, this RBI also sets up a sacrifice bunt now from Blanton, the pitcher, and that's what Valdez has to do right there offensively. He has to just stay compact, level, line drives.
Well, Dylan G has faced 8 batters. He's given up 5 hits and a walk. He was fortunate to survive the 1st inning without a run, but now the Phillies have a run in and poised for more here in the 2nd. And so it has gone for Dylan, who in his last start in Atlanta got knocked out in the 5th inning, gave up 4 runs and 8 hits, walked 5 in that game. A game the Mets eventually came back and won, and G got a no decision. He's also had 2 outings against the Phillies this year, 1 in relief, 1 as a starter, and has gotten beat up in both those games. So the track record right now for Dylan after that 7-0 start just has not been very good. And you don't know what's going to be with Dylan G next year. I mean, the Mets will get Johan Santana back, and so somebody who's currently a part of the Mets rotation will take a back seat. Blanton up there to bunt. Mets play it straight up, and Blanton bunts a ball that almost hit him. G goes to third and gets the out. Aggressive play by Dylan G, and they get the force on Schneider. That's a good job by G knowing who was running. Schneider, who has no wheels at all. And that's the first out of the inning.
Well, either that or it's great direction from Tolley, because remember, the pitcher's coming in, his back's to the play, and he has to rely on the catcher. And that play right there, the difference is no hesitation. This is a pretty decent bunt. That's great coverage defensively on that bunt by G, and no hesitation to third.
So 1 out. Valdez now at second, Blanton at first, and here's Rollins, who's single to right leading off the game. Rollins with that base hit first time up, snapped an 0 for 16 skid. And G misses low, 1-0. Meanwhile, in that National League wild card today, the Cardinals won, scoring 2 in the bottom of the 9th, beating the Cubs. And the Braves lost, so Atlanta's lead is down to 2 games over St. Louis.
So, Garrett, if you add a second team to the wild card, then St. Louis is in, and the wild card's over.
Well, maybe.
Well, the Giants
were 2 games behind them starting the day.
Well, they were. Yes, they were. You're correct.
And in the American League, the Angels were a game behind Tampa Bay starting the day, so that would be the competition. Lined into center field, a base hit for Rollins. Valdez being waved around. The throw to the plate by Pridey up the line, and Valdez is in with the second Philadelphia run. Jimmy Rollins with an RBI single, and it's 2-0.
Well, you get that bunt down, it's 3-0. And Rollins seems determined, playing both games of this doubleheader. He has always been a thorn in the Mets' side, And Valdez gets a good jump on this and runs well. And the throw a little bit up the line and fading.
6 hits now off Dylan G in an inning and a third. And here's Victorino with 2 on. And he takes the fastball inside. I think the best thing about adding a second wild card team and then having a 1-game playoff between the 2 wild card teams to see who gets into the next round is that it creates more of an incentive for teams to go after the division, especially when you have situations where, you know, 2 teams in the same division are destined to both go to the postseason. And we've seen that a lot in recent years, not so much now, although it looked like it was going to be that way with the Phillies and Braves and with the Yankees and Red Sox, and it hasn't gone that way. But you want teams to have an incentive to win their division, and I think that's the best thing about the change that appears to be coming.
Because you're playing a 1-game playoff and you're going to have to go with your best pitcher to go forward.
Right, and you put your whole season on the line of that 1 game just to get into the postseason proper.
But you may not have that luxury if you're fighting down to the end.
Right.
You know, and you may have to come up where your rotation comes up with your big guy throwing the last game of the year to get you in there.
Well, it also, if you have a 1-game playoff, or even if you have a best of 3, even more so, then the teams that do win the divisions have a little more time to set their rotations.
That's
for the
true.
postseason.
That's a very good point.
Now, you don't want to have too much time off because that can be a detriment.
Yes.
Here's the 1-2 to Victorino. Line caught by Turner. Double play. Blanton didn't know which way to go. And the Mets get the line drive 4-6 double play to end the inning. But the Phillies score a pair. Valdez and Rollins with the RBIs. Second double play, but it's 2-0 Philly. The 5 Met pitchers who've won 20 games in a season.
Okay.
You have your list?
Yes.
I got 4 off the top of my head, and I'm trying to remember who the 5th one is. Nick Evans leads off against Joe Blanton. Evans 1 for 4 in the first game, hitting at .253 for the year.
I've got him. I know who you're forgetting. 5, right?
Oh, I forgot him. I shouldn't have forgotten him. Oh, you kill me.
Well, you know what? You're tired. You're play-by-play. You do all of them. I do 105.
So you're a little sharper, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Maybe you should do a little play-by-play. You know, Ronnie did play-by-play a couple of weeks ago.
I know he did.
TBS
I
game.
missed it. If I'd have known, I'd have watched. He said he was very nervous. It's a lot of responsibility.
He did a very nice job. He did.
Well, I'm not
especially on short notice.
I'm not surprised.
David Herndon up in the bullpen. Remember, we said Blanton's only going to pitch 2 or 3 innings, so they're already getting Herndon ready in the second. And Evans out on strikes. Blanton has his first strikeout.
Did you know when I was 19 years old in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I hurt my knee. I had a buckle handle tear in my cartilage, my right knee. Nick caught looking for a curveball, outside corner strike, fastball. I came back, and as I was rehabbing, I did, for around 3 games in Tulsa, I did the radio.
Really?
Yes, I had a great time.
You weren't doing play-by-play, though.
I was doing color, and then they let me do 1 inning, half inning of play-by-play.
Really?
And, of course, Jim Dwyer hits in the 9th inning or 8th inning, we're down a run, two men on, hits a double to left center field. It scores both runs, puts us ahead. And, of course, I flubbed it. But we had fun. We laughed.
Is there a tape?
No, I don't know. I don't know what the station in Tulsa was then. But it was 1973 or 1974.
Somebody somewhere has got to have a tape of that.
I would believe so. 1974, I believe.
I mean, we could play that on the air and everything if it wouldn't embarrass you too much.
Oh, I can laugh at myself. Shoot.
Ball and 2 strikes to Josh Tolley. After Mike Nicky has caught the first game. Tolley, who had a really fun day in St. Louis on Thursday with 300 family and friends coming down from Breeze, Illinois, and Tolley had a really good day. Hit the ball well.
Did they pronounce his name properly?
Yes. How could they not? They would have been an uproar in the stands.
Can we clue the fans in on what happened in Wrigley Field his rookie year?
Sure.
They announced him on the PA system when he came up, or on the lineup, as Josh Toll, which, Illinois is split. Northern Illinois is Cub country. Oh, boy, he got tied up there. That was not a pretty swing.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Blanton.
This is getting tied up inside. Oh, boy. That's right. I'd rather not swing. I'd rather just take it and go sit down. It happens.
So 2 out and nobody on. Josh Satin batting.
The dividing line of Illinois is Peoria, right in the middle. And Peoria is split between Cub and Cardinal fans. And probably a little more Cub fans than Cardinal fans. But anything south of Peoria is Cardinal country.
So Peoria is kind of like Hartford is the demarcation line between New York and Boston.
Yep.
So what you're saying is that the Cub announcer mispronounced Josh's name on purpose because he's from Southern Illinois?
He should have known better. Come on.
I mean, really?
I was stunned.
Sounds like a little too much partisanship. Satin 1 for 3 in the opener. And Josh takes a strike. Josh has now had 16 at bats with the Mets. He has 4 hits. And a big 2-run double in St. Louis for his first Major League RBIs. Made a couple of nice defensive plays in the first game today. 0-2 from Blanton, and Satin fouls it off. Run the bases at Citi Field Sunday following the afternoon game against the Phillies with the Mr. Met Dash for all kids 12 and under, presented by Stonyfield Farm. For tickets, visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIX.
And the last game of the year on Wednesday is a 1 o'clock game, correct?
That's right.
It's like the old business person special.
I think it's the get out of town special. Swing and a miss. And Joe Blanton, if that was his final inning, certainly finishes with a flourish. He strikes out the side in the second. 2-0 Phillies after 2. place. Joe Blanton throws 2 innings, and it looks like he's probably done. But a pretty good 2 innings, you'd have to say.
Well, the 2 guys right here, they don't look too interested in that conversation, do they?
Well, that's Roy Halladay and Roy Oswalt, and they got their own thing going.
Their day off. In between games in a doubleheader, before I scooted off to Parkside Restaurant, Vance Worley had a warm-up session, a side session, I guess they call it, out in the bullpen. Bullpen session, side session. It was kind of interesting to watch the grounds crew come out, get the field ready for the second game. You get 3 hours in between games. People came in, cleaned up the stadium. No music, complete peace, folks. It was heaven.
You like the quiet ballpark.
Oh.
1-1 to Utley at his feet.
The only thing missing was the crack of the bat or the fungo. And
right, no batting practice
exactly.
for the night game.
Yeah.
Did you play day-night doubleheaders? Did they have
those? That was minor leagues. That was in the minor leagues only. I may have played in a couple late in my career. I can't recall, Gare. I think I did.
Off the backhand of Turner. And Utley's aboard. So Justin unable to pick that one. And we'll see how they score it.
Ball's ripped. Might have to give it an error, Gare.
And that's how they score it.
It's a tough error, but it's an error.
So leadoff base runner for the Phillies for the 3rd straight inning. And now Hunter Pence, who came up with the bases loaded and nobody out his first time up and hit a comebacker into a 1-2-3 double play. That's 13 errors for Turner this year. And another comebacker and a chance for another double play. G hesitates, and that costs him. G double clutched on the throw, and by the time Tejada got it, he had no chance to double up Pence.
Well, if the pitcher feels that he's got the ball too quick and the fielders aren't there, he's still got to throw it. He's got to make his adjustment. Tejada's there.
You got to throw it to the bag, right?
Or you can throw it if it's the shortstop coming over. Let me tell you, every time runner's on base, the pitcher, you always see him look, and he points to either the second baseman or the shortstop, and that point is, okay, you're covering. So G knows who's covering. So in that case, he knew it was Tejada. If Tejada's late, then throw it 5 feet to the left of the bag.
Here's Mayberry with 1 out and 1 on. Well, let's see whether Tejada was in position.
He's got to throw it. He's got to throw it. And I was late. I was on the wrong screen. But he's got to throw it 5 feet to the left side of the bag and let Tejada run and get to it. It's like a quarterback throwing a square in over the middle.
Well, and especially, and you talked about it earlier, with Utley coming in trying to break up the double play.
Yep. Well, once you hesitate, with Pence who runs well, it's over. So those are the kind of plays, Gary, that you cannot assimilate in spring training with PFP, pitchers fielding practice. When they do that endlessly, it's everybody's there on time in spring training. It's a perfect lead, and there you see the double plays, the lows, and we've always said that the Mets had a hard time turning 2 this season, and that's a pitcher's best friend.
That's a turn 2 double plays already in this game. Could have easily had a third.
So that's a defensive liability right there.
1-2 to Mayberry, who popped up his first trip. And the cutter outside, 2-2.
But just to reiterate the point, Gare, there are so many plays that you can work on in spring training that are rote. But then there's that time when that rote play happens, a routine play, and something like that happens. And then you got to think on your feet. And a lot of guys can't do it. I'm not saying that G can't do it, but when that happens, then you've got to have the presence of mind to make the throw and lead Tejada, which means, okay, if I throw to second base, he's not going to get there. Okay, then I've got to make my thinking on the feet, split second decision. I got to throw 10 feet, 5 feet to the left of the bag, and the Tejada will get there. So that's thinking on your feet.
So that you can basically lead him to the bag.
And it's it's easy to sit up here, but there's people that do that. The teams that win make those plays. That should have been a double play. And it reflects on the Mets statistic we just showed, where they've had such difficulty turning two.
Now it's 3-2 to Mayberry with Pence at first and 1 out. Let's see if he's running. He is not, and Mayberry strikes out. Now the throw down to first, and Pence almost came off the bag. So Tolley snapping that throw behind Pence. Almost had a double play in that fashion.
Really good slider here. Very good slider. He was safe.
And that really looked like a true slider, Keith. A pitch that G had kind of abandoned earlier this year in favor of a cutter. He gets his first strikeout as Mayberry goes down. So 2 out. Pence still at first, and here's Glode, who doubled over Evans' head in right field. Evans playing a little deeper this time. And he whacks one toward the gap in right center, and that's going to go all the way back to the bullpen fence. Pence around third, and he's on his way home. It's an RBI double for Ross Glode. And so the Phillies, taking advantage of the error and the Mets' inability to turn two, tack on a run here in the third to go up 3-0. Second double of the game for Ross Glode.
Well, Glode, excuse me. G has been hurt twice on fastballs, first pitch, and right down the middle. And watch Pence run the bases. And he's not even looking. He's looking for his third base coach. And Glode, that's a stand-up right there. And not a great. He looks like he's limping, doesn't it? I wonder if Ross stayed out in the Hamptons this series.
He grew up in East Hampton.
East Hampton. That's a long haul in, I can tell you that.
Well, you should know. Is East Hampton closer or farther
Further
than you?
East Hampton would be, geez. I'm an hour and a half. East Hampton would almost be 2 hours. No, thank you.
You know, you and Ross could share a ride. I know he'd be thrilled.
I didn't think of it. It's too late.
Tejada playing very deep against Schneider and throws him out to end the inning. But the Phillies get an unearned run. Glode with the RBI double. 3-0 Phillies in game number 2. Be a question. 5 Met pitchers who've won 20 games. Well, Seaver was the first.
Coney.
Then Kuzman.
Viola.
There you go.
God.
There are your 5.
I was a Cardinal on the bench in 1976, the last game of the season when Jerry Koosman won his 20th.
And you know what he did next year?
Well, lost 20.
Lost 20. Of course, that's when the Mets traded Seaver and were a stripped-down unit. Well, Joe Blanton out after 2 very good innings in his first start since the middle of May. No runs, 1 hit, no walks, 3 strikeouts.
For him, it's all about being pain-free, I'm sure, and he's got to feel good about his 2 innings. And on the hill, David Herndon in 43 games, and I must say, his up-and-down year with him, AAA. His first 11 games of the season, he had an ERA of almost 10. But since being recalled in 32 appearances, he's posted a 2.01 earned run average.
However, lefties have just strafed him all year to a 360 clip, and a left-hand hitter, Jason Pridey, first man up against him. And a fastball for a strike.
Well, he's a sinker ball pitcher, not overpowering. And there you saw the sinker.
Pridey played the first game, went 0 for 2, hitting a .216, and he drills one toward the gap in right center field. Pence comes over to cut it off. Pridey's going to take a turn and hold with a hard hit single. So we mentioned Herndon struggles against lefties, and Pridey proves the point.
Tries to throw a little backdoor slider and gets it over the middle. And like most clubs, this is the Achilles heel of today's modern game. And that is, with all the 12 pitchers on the staff and the bullpens, you can get at them early. That's where you can beat a ball club.
Dylan G, 7 sacrifices on the year to go with 5 hits. But like all the Met pitchers, he has really struggled to bunt lately. In fact, the Mets have gone 14 games now since their pitchers had a successful sacrifice. And it's been like an epidemic from top to bottom on the staff. The bunting has it's just been poor. The Mets have probably run more bunting drills than any team I've ever seen to try and get a handle on it. And it just hasn't seemed to sink in. Ruben Tejada hitting leadoff in this game is on deck. By the way, Reyes sitting in game 2 began the day with the National League batting lead, began tonight. But Ryan Braun tripled his first time up, and Braun has regained that lead from Reyes. G fouls it off, and it's 1-2.
Wow.
Braun is now at 3.3031, and Reyes at 3.2950. So both are technically at 3.30, but Braun in front. And we'll try and keep you updated.
It's going to go down to the wire.
Of course, Matt Kemp is in that mix, too.
And we got to wait on that game in San Diego.
Kemp looking for the first triple crown in the National League in 74 years.
Boy, would that be an achievement?
Be monumental. And I think it would certainly clinch the MVP, don't you think? And that rolls foul, and another failed bunt attempt by a Met pitcher. It's unbelievable. It's everybody, and it's every attempt. 15 games in a row.
Tarnation.
Tarnation is right. So 1 out and 1 on. Just to get back to Matt Kemp for a moment. There's been a lot of talk, and there always is, about how players on teams that are not competitive in their division or in the wild card are often not considered for MVP. But, you know, if you win the Triple Crown, I would think that would catch some people's attention.
Well, we can draw on the last National League Triple Crown winner, and we'd have to go all the way back to 1937. Joe Ducky Medwick with the St. Louis Cardinals. That year, the Cardinals finished 14 games behind the National League winning New York Giants with an 81-73 record in 4th place. And Joe won the MVP hands down. 374 batting average, 31 home runs, 154 RBIs. Of course, he also led the league in runs with 111, hits 237, doubles 56, slugging percentage 641, and total bases 406. And that was all in 156 games.
Pretty good year. Wait a second, 156. It was 154 game schedule.
54, excuse me.
It must have been a couple of ties. Did he actually play 156?
I think it was 156, yes. And we'll have Dougie look it up. 37 cards. Medwick. It was 156 games. I looked it up this morning. I could be wrong.
I doubt it. Tejada bounced out to short his first time up. There goes Pridey. And Schneider's throw on the money, but he's safe. He can't make a better throw, but Pridey steals the base, his 7th, and the Mets' 2nd in this game.
Good jump. Wasn't that the year in 37 when Bill Terry was the manager of the New York Giants and kind of scoffed at the Yankees, and the Yankees cleaned their clock?
I remember Terry
30.
was quoted about the Dodgers. Remember, he said, is Brooklyn still in the league?
That's right. That's right. You're right.
Of course, Terry is the last National League hitter to hit 400.
Correct. And no one ever knows about Bill Terry. He was a first baseman for the Giants, a terrific player. And you don't even know about him today. If you ask the young kids today, they wouldn't know who he was.
Well, there are a lot of players from that era. Back to Herndon, looking the runner back, and now they've got Pridey in a rundown. And now Rollins runs him to third. This will enable Tejada to get to second as the tag is finally made by Utley.
All right, there's one mistake in this rundown, and this is a team that is very solid defensively. They've come into this game only making 72 errors, a league-leading 72 errors minimum, the least amount. Utley comes in beautifully, gets rid of it because you want us to run the runner back. Rollins fails to come, leaves second base, shorten the distance between the third baseman and the shortstop, and running down Pridey, and then you tag him out. And then the runner doesn't advance to second. That was the mistake in that rundown.
1-4-5-6-4 on the fielder's choice. So Tejada at second with 2 out. Now Turner. Justin, who's been the Mets' best hitter all year with runners in scoring position. Willie Harris would be next. And Turner lays off, and Herndon behind 2-0.
You're going to see here's the play here. Now, see, freeze it right here, guys. Right here is Rollins. Come to the runner. And that shortens the distance. And if you come to the runner, you're coming with momentum towards the runner. And the runner's momentum is going back to second base. So the runner has to stop, plant, and go the other direction while you're coming hard, and you get the ball on the run, and I guarantee you Rollins makes the tag, and then that rundown's over.
Now Herndon behind on Turner, 3-0 with Harris on deck. And it's too high, ball 4. So a 4-pitch walk to Turner, and the Mets have 2 men on. David Herndon, former Rule 5 draft pick. Phillies took him out of the Angels organization. Now here's Harris, who had a base hit to right center his first time up. Really continues to swing the bat as well as anybody on the ball club. Over his last 26 games, Harris is 15 for 41. That's a 366 clip. Going back now for about 6 weeks. So after what was not a great start to his season, Harris having a tremendous finish. And he takes it high, 1-0. And, you know, if you're a Willie Harris, you're fighting for a job every day.
Yep.
And don't think he doesn't know it. He's shown his versatility this year. He's been able to play just about everywhere for the Mets.
And he's hit left-handers this year. I know he's had minimal at-bats, under 30. But nevertheless, he's hit lefties in those at-bats, and to a point where Terry Collins during the year has used him against left-handers.
Tejada and Turner, the base runners with 2 out. Well, we got the start against the lefty in game 1 today against Cole Hamels. It's very short-handed in the outfield right now, giving Harris more time. There's a possibility, by the way, that Lucas Duda might not play again this year. Duda smashed into the wall in St. Louis. He's been having headaches ever since.
That's Ryan Sandberg right there on the right, folks. MVP in 1984 for the Chicago Cubs. He does want to manage.
Remember, he began his career in the Phillies organization, and Dallas Green basically stole him for the Cubs. In fact, Sandberg was the throw-in in the deal that sent Larry Bowa to Chicago and brought Ivan DeJesus to Philadelphia. And Dallas Green said, well, why don't you throw in this Sandberg? And turned out to be the steal of the century. 1984 most valuable player.
And the Cubs got Larry Bowa, plays shortstop in that 84 division winning team. And they got an MVP second baseman to go with it.
Now Herndon with a 2-2, and Harris takes a tight ball 3. You're talking about Harris and having to compete for a job every year. I mean, you look at this Mets team as it might be constituted next year, particularly if Reyes comes back. Now, Daniel Murphy might be that prime left-handed bat off the bench. And that squeezes a guy like Harris. So he's not only showing off for the Mets, he's showing off for 29 other teams, too. The runners get set to go, and Harris fouls it off.
And you just don't know what Sandy Alderson's going to do in the offseason. There are lots of avenues he can run down, lots of boulevards, and you just don't know what direction he's going to go. And I'd be watching very, very curiously to see which direction Sandy goes, what moves he makes, and I'm sure he'll be in.
On the left field side, that's foul.
Talking with Terry Collins about that and getting Terry's field feedback. We're the kind of players that Terry wants on his bench, managing. He'll have his input, but ultimately it's always the GM who makes the final decisions.
Well, as Sandy said to us the other day, October, that's Reyes month. First, they've got to get that squared away before they do anything else. And, you know, what your bench is going to be depends on, first, who your starters are going to be. You know, if Reyes is here, then that pushes Tejada over to second. Harris hits it in the air to pretty deep right field. Lots of room out there, though, for Pence. Cutting over near the wall, and he drops it.
Oh, my.
That'll bring home 2 runs. Harris turns and heads for third. Well, Hunter Pence took a circuitous route, but got there and then just dropped it. And the Mets get 2 runs back. It's now 3-2 Philadelphia.
Boy, Pence, sometimes I just think he's on his heels and the ball bounces. He's such an awkward runner. And that ball had to be bouncing on him. He did make look at this, a bad angle towards the ball, but you got to make that play, don't you?
I think he was a little bit shy of the wall as he got there. Maybe he took his eye off the ball a little bit. They're going to score at a 3-base error on Pence.
Absolutely.
So the Mets have the tying run at third now with 2 out. Here's David Wright.
Wow.
So the Phillies got an unearned run in the top of the inning, and now the Mets have a couple of unearned runs right back. The Phillies have made the fewest errors in the National League. That's just their 73rd. Mets, by contrast, have made 114.
And the teams behind closest to the Phillies in errors are the Dodgers and the Braves at 82. So Phillies play good defense, and that ball should have been caught.
Pence is a good outfielder, but just sometimes an awkward looking outfielder. That's his 6th error of the year, as first as a Philly. 1-2 to right, and he fouls it off. Well, even though it was scored in error, another tremendous at bat for Willie Harris.
Surely.
He just looks locked in right now in a way that he just hasn't all year. And the curveball stays high, 2-2. Your Coors Light freeze cam.
Oh, it's just a big clank. Right. Wow. That's embarrassing. I'm sure Hunter's not going to go watch that one on the replay. He's usually sure-handed.
Well, another 3-2 count for Herndon. He's gone to 3 balls on each of the last 4 batters. 30 pitches in the inning now for David Herndon. And one more to make here to right with the tying run at 3rd and 2 out. 3-2. And it's too high, ball 4, and that's the second walk of the inning. So while the error brought in the 2 runs, Herndon has certainly hurt himself. He walked Turner on 4 pitches right in front of Harris. And now he walks right. And Charlie Manuel, looking rather disgusted, will head out to the mound. Kyle Kendrick is up and throwing. So Charlie isn't bothering sending Rich Doobie out. He's taking this trip himself.
I think he's got a little tongue lashing. He does not want this team to lose its 8th in a row. He's taking them out.
So Herndon will take his exit, and we have a pitching change. The long man is coming out of the game without allowing an earned run. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Lincoln. Kyle Kendrick next man in for the Phillies. 3-2 Mets trail it in the 3rd. We'll be right back. You'll have access to exclusive New York sports content, including up-to-the-minute sports news and original video. Visit Facebook and like SNY today. Now, Kyle Kendrick will be the 3rd Philadelphia pitcher of this game.
Well, 32nd game, as you see, 15 starts. He's been kind of their swing guy. He's kind of filled in when Oswalt got injured and went on a DL due to a bad back. He's filled in nicely for them. He's always pitched pretty well against the Metsies.
And particularly here at Citi Field, where he has a career 2.45 ERA. Nick Evans up 1st and 3rd and 2 out. Evans took a call 3rd strike his first time up, and he takes the fastball away from Kendrick for ball 1. So Blanton went 2 innings, allowed no runs, 1 hit. Herndon goes 2/3 of an inning, has given up 2 unearned runs on a hit, couple of walks, and the dropped fly ball by Pence. And responsible for the 2 on base. And Evans hooks one toward the left field corner. That settles down for an extra base hit.
Harris scores the tying run. Wright will be held at third. It's an RBI double for Nick Evans, and the Mets have gotten even at 3. Nick Evans drives in his 22nd run. Thought Chip Hale might take a chance and wave Wright home, but he declined to.
Evans likes that ball up middle end. Hanging slider upstairs. Just to the right of the A in that delta sign.
That's where the keep climbing goes. So now Josh Thole with second and third and 2 out. Josh struck out his first time up. And he has to vacate. Three runs in the inning, all unearned, the result of the 2-out error by Pence. Wright followed with a walk. Kendrick came in, greeted rudely by Evans' double. Now Thole the 8th man up with Satin on deck. 2-0 now to Josh. Well, the Phillies have lost 7 straight games after clinching the National League East. That's never happened before to a team that's clinched, never lost this many games in a row. And the Phillies have not lost 8 in a row at any time since 2000, 11 years ago. And they've let a 3-0 lead get away in this 3rd inning. Sometimes those things matter for a team heading to the postseason, and sometimes they don't. There's a strike 3-1. I think the classic case of it not mattering at all were the Yankees in 2000.
That's when they lost, what, 13 out of the last 15, and everybody was screaming and yelling, I remember. And what'd they do?
Beat Oakland, beat Seattle, beat the Mets.
Thank you.
World Series champions.
So it's all about stepping up to the plate. Gare?
I mean, the thing about the Phillies that probably has them less concerned than another team might is that the strength of their team is their starting pitcher.
Correct.
And, you know, Halladay and Lee and Oswalt, Hamels, those guys will be there once next week arrives.
Thole lines one to center. On comes Victorino. Can't get it. Base hit, and it kicks off his body. 2-run score. The Mets take the lead. Thole takes a wide turn and goes back to first. He drives in a pair of runs, and the Mets go in front 5-3. So a 5-run inning for the Mets after the drop fly ball opened the door.
Well, this inning should have been over with. And there's another bad pitch. A sinker ball pitcher getting the ball up. And a good effort by Victorino to try to catch it and keep it in front. He wasn't going to throw anybody out, and totally didn't advance. And the Mets have their send their ninth batter to the plate.
It's Josh Satin who struck out his first time up. So the Mets with 5 unearned runs here in the 3rd and still looking for more. Now leading 5-3. And Satin takes wide for ball 1.
Well, we're going to give you the IOTV pitch differential. And it's a whopper. Oh, my.
That's maybe the biggest pitch differential with IOTV that we've ever had. That may be a record. I mean, really, from down and in to up and away.
Oh, boy.
Doesn't get worse than that.
It was a whopper.
I think that's an official baseball term. Jason Pridey, who led off the inning with a base hit, now waiting on deck. And Satin bangs one into the ground, 1-2. Josh Satin named the Mets Organizational Player of the Year. At age 26, had himself a terrific offensive season in the minor leagues. Kyle Kendrick's come in, giving up 2 run scoring hits in a row. First 4 runs of the inning charged to Herndon, and the last one to Kendrick. Runs against Herndon unearned. Strike 3 called as Satin goes down looking to end the inning, but not before the Mets put up 5 unearned runs. Hunter Pence could have put the inning away without the Mets scoring at all, but Willie Harris's fly ball produced a circuitous route and a drop. And the Mets score 5 to lead 5-3. For Sunday's matchup against the Raiders, with fan discussions, player profiles, and exclusive video on Jets blog presented by Aflac, featured on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Well, Dylan G now has a lead to work with as he faces the Phillies in the 4th inning. Wilson Valdez singled home a run his first time up. G's given up 3 runs and 7 hits over the first 3 innings. And Valdez takes it high. Kyle Kendrick is out on deck to bat for himself. Jimmy Rollins behind him. And Valdez takes the changeup high, and it's 2-1. Slow ground ball. Tejada charging and throwing on the move to get Valdez one away. So 1 out and nobody on. Now the pitcher Kendrick is coming up. In St. Petersburg, Ben Zobrist homered in the bottom of the 4th inning for Tampa Bay, and the Rays now lead the Blue Jays 3-2 going to the 5th, meaning they're sweating a little bit more up in New England. If Tampa Bay wins that game, then the Red Sox lead in the wild card would be down to a game and a half. Boston has 5 games left after today. Tampa Bay will have 4. And with Boston playing a doubleheader in the Bronx tomorrow, that means there's at least a chance that by the end of the weekend, those 2 teams could be even. Swing and a miss. Kendrick down on 3 pitches. Strikeout number 2 for Dylan G.
Well, it's very interesting what's happening in the American League. I do think St. Louis, with 2 games out with 4 to play, it has a real uphill battle. But Tampa's got a shot because, I mean, Boston is in free fall.
Well, they have no pitching. I mean, again, Beckett lost on Thursday and Lester lost today. And they've got nobody else they can rely on. Perfect bunt by Rollins, and G can put that in his pocket. Well, you can't roll it out there any better than Rollins just bunted it, and Jimmy's got his 3rd hit of the game.
Well, it's a beautiful bunt.
So Rollins 3 for 3 in this game, a game in which he entered having gone 0 for his last 16. So now Victorino, the tying run at the plate. He is singled to right and lined into a double play, 1 for 2. Victorino was the villain in game 1 for R.A. Dickey. Dickey had a no-hitter going through 6 1/3, but Victorino broke it up. Batting right-handed, he laced a double to left field, and no doubt about it, hit. And listening to R.A.'s comments after the game, he said he thought he had a shot at it. He really felt as though his knuckleball was that good today. But the one he threw to Victorino, not so good.
And the one he threw to Howard after that, not so good. And they both got him.
Something about those switch hitters who bat right-handed against knuckleballers. And it worked out for Victorino.
But R.A., another fine game and a great finish to his season.
12 straight quality starts to end the year, and he finishes the year with a 3.28 ERA, which, you know, that's awfully good. Especially when you consider how the first 6 weeks went for Dickey. They weren't good at all. Close play on the pickoff try, and Rollins back. There's a strike. 1-1 to Victorino. Well, after he hurt his foot in Chicago, those were the numbers for Dickey. The record only 7-8, but look at the ERA. And he finished off his season as well as you can. And you know what he said after the game today, I thought was very interesting. He said, "I'm just trying to get to the point where people no longer look at me as a fluke, that they know that I'm a reliable pitcher." And he said, "I think I've done that this year," and I think that's true. There goes Rollins. Victorino pulls it foul. I mean, the Mets believed in Dickey enough after last year that they gave him a 2-year contract. And he's one of the 6 Mets who is signed for next season. And he will be right there in the middle of the Mets rotation.
Well, every year is a test. And, you know, I know there's long-term contracts today, and guys are paid, you know, for past performance. And there was a day when you got paid on your last season, and those days are gone. But still, as an athlete, you want to prove year in, year out. That's the true test of, there's the steal, they got him.
Perfect throw by Tolley, and he guns down Rollins to end the inning. So Rollins going 2 pitches in a row. He gets thrown out for the 8th time this year. That gets G through the 4th with a 5-3 lead. The diamond quote from Ray Kroc, the former owner of the San Diego Padres. Pretty soon we'll be starting games at midnight so people in outer space can watch in primetime. We're making a mistake by always going for more money. Well, here we are 34 years later. Jason Pridey takes a strike, 0-1.
Very interesting comment.
Well, when he said that, baseball had only started playing the World Series at night 5 years before. Before that, baseball had always played the World Series during the day. Long fly ball by Pridey, deep right center. Victorino back, and he can't get it. It hops against the fence. Pridey around second. They're saying that it bounced out of play for a ground rule double. Second base umpire Mike Estabrook making the call, and Terry Collins is going to argue, and he has a case. I don't think that ball bounced out of play. I think it bounced up against the Geico sign and then went up in the air. But a long drive by Pridey.
Sinker right down the middle. And we normally see Victorino catching everything. This ball hit too deep. Oh, you're right. It definitely was not a ground rule double.
So you can see from this angle right here.
Nope.
Or maybe it did go over the fence and hit the black wall. I'm not sure now from that angle. In any event, it is a ground rule double for Pridey.
I think it was the right call.
So Pridey is 2 for 2, and now Dylan G up there to bunt. Struck out trying to bunt his first time up and takes a strike. Take one more look at this. See if we can get a better read on it.
It bounces above.
Yeah, it did hit. That was a good call.
Yep.
Estabrook got it right. It hit the black, not the blue. Well, G has to bunt it to get out of the way. Schneider makes the throw. So the Mets finally have one of their pitchers successfully sacrificed. 2-4, moving Pridey over to third. Self-defense.
Got it done. And that's going to get the Phillies to move the infield in here.
8th sacrifice of the year for Dylan G. So Tejada with a chance to drive in a run. Ruben is 0 for 2. Grounded out in the first and then grounded into a fielder's choice in the third. There's a strike. Tejada with 35 RBIs for the year, including 3 of those on Thursday in the game in St. Louis, including the game tying hit in the 9th. One more look at the ball going over the fence.
It definitely hit above the orange.
Yep.
The orange bar there. What do we want to call it?
Going to prove once again that the umpires get them right more often than not. Tejada takes one the other way, and that's a base hit. In to score is Pridey, and it's 6-3 New York. Now Ruben Tejada getting the job done again. His 36th run batted in.
Well, that's what he has to do. Hit line drive. They're going to play him shallow. Oh, it's a hanging slider right down the pipe.
For Ruben, the 11th time in 17 tries he's gotten a runner in from third with less than 2 out. That's 65%, which is awfully good. Every day he proves more and more that he can hit enough to play here. So the Mets now up 6-3. Here's Turner. Boy, Kendrick not fooling anybody. He's faced 6 batters and given up 4 hits. Turner walked and scored in the 3rd inning. He's 0 for 1. Willie Harris hitting 3rd in the order, waiting on deck. There goes Tejada, and Turner bloops one. Shallow right. On comes Pence, and he gets there. Not trying to retreat is Tejada, and he gets back safely. So now there are 2 out.
Well, the Phillies just look out of sync, don't they? And, you know, they've walked away with the Eastern Division. And just not a... He had Tejada if he makes the throw. I know it's not an easy play. But it just doesn't look like the Phillies really are on point. They're just not on point.
Well, they've lost 7 games in a row. And they now trail 6-3 in this one after taking an early 3-0 lead. Cha-cha-cha. Here's Harris, who's 1 for 2. And a base hit, then hit the fly ball that Pence dropped for a 3-base error in the 3rd. By the way, the Phillies are playing their 3rd day-night doubleheader in the last 10 days. They got swept in the last one by the Nats on Tuesday. Harris lifts one to Mayberry for the 3rd out, but the Mets add a run on Tejada's RBI single. 6-3 New York after 4 in the nightcap. Why for behind the scenes access, player reactions, and a complete game breakdown with exclusive on-field interviews and Rex Ryan's post-game comments. Jets post-game live presented by Toyota Sunday immediately after the Jets-Raiders game only on SNY. Mets with a 6-3 lead as we go to the 5th after the Mets won the opener today 2-1. Shane Victorino was at the plate when Jimmy Rollins was caught stealing to end the 4th, and so Victorino leads off the 5th against Dylan G, who got off to a dreadful start today but now has a 3-run lead. And he throws a first pitch curveball high for ball 1. Victorino is singled to right and lined into a double play. Utley and Pence to follow in the 5th. Taken inside. 2-0 to Victorino. G gave up 6 hits in the first 2 innings and got out of the second on the line drive that Victorino hit into a double play. Then he yielded another run, an unearned run in the 3rd, and was behind in the game 3-0 before the Mets got 5 unearned runs in the 3rd and then tacked on 1 more run in the 4th. So G has been kind of living right tonight. Victorino slaps one foul, 2-2. We're keeping our eye on the National League batting race with Jose Reyes sitting out game number 2, and it's getting tighter. Pulled down to first. Sattin's got it. Waits for G to cover, and Victorino retired one away. Matt Kemp got to hit his first time up tonight. The Dodgers playing in San Diego. So Kemp, who is trying for the Triple Crown, is now up to 327. Reyes is at 329, actually 330 officially because he's at 329.50. And Ryan Braun had to hit his first time up tonight. He's at 330, and Braun is batting right now, slightly ahead of Reyes. So 3 points separating the three players.
It's tight.
And the way Kemp is going, it may get a lot tighter. Here's Utley, who's walked and reached on an arrow for one, and he drives one to center field, chasing Pridey back deep to the warning track, and it's off the fence on the fly. Utley heads for second and in standing with a 1-out double. 21st double of the year for Chase Utley, and a good sign for the Phillies because Utley just hasn't been driving the ball much of late.
There's a flat slider running away. Sinker. And Pridey plays it well off the wall. And Utley knows this is a big ballpark. Ninth hit off G.
So now here's Pence, who's 0 for 2 at the plate, plus made the error in the field that led to 5 runs. So he's had a rough game already. And a rough doubleheader, struck out as a pinch hitter in game 1. Well, Braun just made an out, grounded out to shortstop for the Brewers. Hit sharply. Tejada with a nice spear to his left. Gets up and fires in time. Beautiful play by Ruben Tejada on a hard hit grounder to get Pence 2 out.
That is a smoking play by Tejada. That was a bullet. Keep an eye on Tejada, top of the screen. Not much time to react. Sure-handed. Nicely done.
So 2 out. Utley's still at second. John Mayberry coming up. Mayberry's popped up and struck out. So Braun, going 1 for 2 now, is at 3.2971. Reyes at 3.2950. And Kemp at 3.2702. So they're all getting more tightly bunched. Nothing in 1 to Mayberry. What do we have, 4 games after today? Reyes is likely to play all 4 of those, sitting out the second game today after going 1 for 3 in the opener. And as we've mentioned repeatedly over the last few weeks, the Mets have never had a National League batting champion. And of course, you know, that's got to be certainly in Reyes's mind, but also in his mind, here we are heading to the last 4 games of the season, and he doesn't know if this is going to be his address next year.
Well, his focus right now, I think, is you want to win the batting crown. And that is where his head should be. And then you worry about it in the offseason.
Shallow center field. Pridey comes in. And he puts it away to retire the side. So G, getting help from Tejada, works around Utley's double. Halfway through. 6-3 New York. It's Twisted but True Fact, brought to you by Twisted Tea, Hard Iced Tea. What do we got? Mets have had 24 games affected by the weather. I guess that means rainouts or rain delays. Snow, hail, lightning. And it's not done yet because, you know, there's rain in the forecast every day between now and the end of the season.
Through Wednesday, you're right.
University of Virginia product Michael Schwimmer will pitch the 5th inning for the Phillies.
It has not been a terrific start for this young man.
Spent the year pitching in AAA at Lehigh Valley and had a great year there with a 1.85 ERA, averaged over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. David Wright, first man up against him. Schwimmer, the 4th pitcher of this game for Philadelphia. A ball and a strike to David, who's grounded out, walked and scored a run, 0 for 1. Schwimmer, 25 years old. Nick Evans on deck, then Josh Tolley. Joe Blanton went the first 2 innings, no runs, 1 hit. David Herndon, 2/3 of an inning, 4 unearned runs on 1 hit. Kyle Kendrick, an inning and a third, 2 runs on 4 hits. One of the 2 runs against Kendrick was unearned against the team, but earned against him. That's that old thing where you can't take advantage of the errors that are made before you come in the game. Swing and a miss, and a full count to right. Schwimmer's fastball's got some movement to it. Now the 3-2, and David goes down swinging. So Schwimmer fans the first man to face him. Wright is out.
Breaking ball out of the strike zone. David getting that long swing back and that uppercut. And it's been a frustrating finish for Dave.
1 for 5 in the doubleheader today. Just 12 for his last 74. Nick Evans doubled in a run his last time up. That tied up the game in the 3rd, and Tolley followed with a 2-run single to put the Mets in front. In at the knees for a strike, 1-2. Hit right at the shortstop. Rollins has got it. And Evans retired, 2 out. Let's take a look at the Delta Keep Climbing 5th inning recap. The Mets with 5 runs in the 3rd, fueled by Hunter Pence's dropped fly ball. Josh Tolley's driven in 2. Evans, Tejada, each with RBIs. And the Mets with a 6-3 lead, going for a sweep of the day-night doubleheader. Now here's Tolley, who's 1 for 2, struck out in the 2nd, singled to drive in 2 runs in the 3rd. You know, the most games that the Phillies have ever won in a season is 101. They did that in 1976, and it looked for a while as though there was no question that they would break that record and break it handily. After all, they won their 98th game to clinch the division, and they still had 11 games to go. But now they've lost 7 straight, and they may not get to 101 wins. Heck, they may not get to 99 the way they're going.
They may not get to 100. So I remember those 77, 76 teams, particularly the 76. The Phillies ran away with it that year. And I remember with the Cardinals, we were in rebuild mode, and we were out of it in like late May.
Totally down on strikes. Of course, neither one of those teams, 76 or 77, won their league championship series. Lost both years.
They needed Pete Rose.
League Cy Young Award: Halladay, Kennedy, Kershaw, Lee. ABCD. Text 57508. Let us know what you think. There are the numbers for that quartet. Kershaw leading in ERA, leading in strikeouts, tied for the lead in wins. Halladay, the defending champ. Ross Gload leads off in the 6th inning against Dylan G, who's still out there chucking after getting off to a horrific start tonight. Gload is having a big night, a pair of doubles. He's driven in a run. He's scored a run. It'll be Gload, Schneider, and Valdez up for the Phillies, and there's a drive to center. Priddy gets over in front of it. I'll tell you what, every time Jason Priddy has played center field, and he did for a month back in May when Pagan was hurt, he has looked awfully good out there.
He covers a lot of ground. His arm, he hasn't got a real strong arm. He's got an average arm, but he does play patrols a very good center field.
There's Brian Schneider, who's 1 for 2. And when he's played regularly, Priddy has done okay offensively, but when he's played sporadically, he has not handled that job nearly as well.
That's the toughest job in the game.
Another guy who has to wonder what his future is going to be. Of course, that's true of really the majority of players on this team. You've got 6 guys signed for next year, and everybody else has had to continue to show what they've got as they play for jobs. That's for a team in transition, trying to remake this organization into a long-term winner, and which the players here will be part of that remains to be seen. Nets have done a big job trying to restock their farm system, both through trades and through the draft, but the results of that are going to be down the road, 2, maybe 3 years away. In the meantime, who's going to be part of this team in the upcoming seasons, and who will be around long enough to reap the fruits of what Sandy Alderson has tried to remake? Starting with that guy. Lifted foul down the left field side.
Well, there's going to be a lot of changes made, and this team is going to take on more of the character and personality of Sandy Alderson and the skipper down there, Mr. Collins.
Three and 2 to Brian Schneider. And he fouls another one. And there will be financial considerations without question, whether the Mets re-sign Reyes or not. I mean, we've talked about it before, but you've got some arbitration eligible players, and 2 in particular, in Angel Pagan and Mike Pelfrey, who are going to command some pretty decent dollars next year. The Mets are going to have to decide whether they are better off keeping those players and paying whatever that might be, $5-6 million for either one of those, or whether that money is better spent elsewhere. 9th pitch of the at bat coming to Schneider, and it's too high, ball 4. Second walk given up by G. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by today's Doctor of Distinction, Dr. Aaron Freilich. Advanced Urology Centers of New York, the best cure in the world, right in your backyard. Log on to aucofny.com. And by freescore.com. 3 credit scores, 1 place. Get your scores today at freescore.com. Here's Wilson Valdez. Singled in a run in the 2nd, grounded out in the 4th, 1 for 2. And when you make those decisions, dollars become part of the decision, but also the ease or lack of ease with which you replace players like that. In other words, if you were to trade or non-tender an Angel Pagan, who plays center field for you next year? Do you think about playing Jason Bay there? Do you go out and try to acquire a lower priced center fielder and use those assets in another area? Those are tough questions. It's
a tough job for the general manager this year, this Met team. There's a lot of revamping that has to be done and lots of considerations.
Ryota Igarashi up in the Mets bullpen. Well, Sandy's made it clear that the bullpen is going to be a top priority for this team.
Well, you've gotten 81 games. Nice line drive right at right. You've got 81 games here. I don't care if you're bringing the fences in. But you've got a ballpark here that's screaming pitching and defense.
And John Bowker up to pinch hit. Well, there's no question about that. And, you know, the Mets pitching has not been good this year. The starters are likely to be much the same with the addition of Johan Santana next year. And the bullpen is an area where you can try to get bargains, bring in volume, have guys compete for jobs. But the one thing Sandy told us when he was on with us earlier in the week is he expects to know who his closer is before spring training starts. And he expects that to be somebody from outside the organization. Ground ball, right playing wide of third, properly positioned, throws out Bowker to end the inning. So Dylan G has scavenged his way through 6, and he's got himself a 6-3 lead at Citi Field. Victorino comes out of the game. Ben Francisco comes in to play left, and John Mayberry moves over to center. And the Phillies will go to their 5th pitcher of this game, Michael Stutz.
Well, Stutz, I like his arm, Gare. You can see decent numbers right there. Strikeout guy. The strikeouts are up, I think, in the league, but still, that's impressive. Doesn't walk a lot of people. Mets touched him up last series, if I recall here. Yep. But I love his stuff. I think it's a good young pitcher for this team.
Stutz out of Oregon State, part of their national championship teams there in 06 and 07. He was in that same bullpen as Eddie Coons, who was the Mets' first-round draft pick, didn't pan out. Stutz, an 11th round pick, who has. Josh Satin leads off in the home 6th inning. Mets 6 runs, 6 hits. The Phillies 3 runs, 9 hits. Michael Schwimmer pitched a 1-2-3 5th, striking out a pair. Now Stutz on for the 6th. Joe Blanton started his first start in 4 months and with 2 solid innings. Satin has been up twice in this game and struck out both times, swinging in the 2nd, looking in the 3rd. Jason Pridey on deck, and then Dylan G due up. Well, G has settled down nicely since getting the lead in this game. To the backstop. 1-1 to Satin.
Well, his last 2 innings, actually 3 innings, you're right, Gary. He has settled in, only given up 2 hits. And one of those hits, was recall, was a drag bunt by Rollins.
looking fastball for a strike. 1-2 to Satin.
No, he throws hard.
In St. Petersburg, they've gone to the 8th inning. Tampa Bay 3, Toronto 2. Rays took the lead on a Ben Zobrist home run in the 4th, and they've stayed in front. That game is now in the 8th. Tampa Bay with a win, pulls with it a game and a half of the Red Sox.
Well, needless to say, Tampa Bay's got to win that ball game. They have got to win.
Keith, if you are the Red Sox, sitting in your hotel in New York, waiting for a day-night doubleheader tomorrow, what must you be thinking at this point?
Well, what they've been thinking the last week, since they've been free falling. You get shook.
Swing and a miss. Good changeup by Stutz to get him.
You know, they haven't been getting the pitching. They've been banged up. The offense sits there and says we can't score enough runs. And, you know, when things start falling apart, and if you look at the wild card there, the Rays right now can make it a 1.5 and 2 in the loss column, which is critical right there. But Boston looking at a doubleheader against the Yankees. Yankees don't like them. And if you recall in the paper, the few of the Yankees didn't have kind words to say about the Red Sox.
Russell Martin
Russell
hate the Red Sox.
He was front and center. So Yankees are going to want to go out and do what they did to Tampa Bay when they took the doubleheader from Tampa Bay and put a crimp in their run on the Red Sox. So I really think the Yankees have had a pretty phenomenal year. I never would have dreamed that they would have the best record in the American League. I'm really, outside of, the manager of the year over there to me has got to be Girardi. If not Girardi, if Tampa Bay gets in, then you got to consider Tampa Bay's manager.
Well, here's my question. The Yankees have been able to forge the best record in the American League despite all the questions about their starters as Priddy strikes out for the second out. How does that translate into the postseason? Obviously, Sabathia is their number one, and I guess Nova's the number two. Do they have enough pitching to get to the World Series?
Well, that's always been their Achilles heel since they've started declining that group that they brought together, of course, with Posada and Jeter. You know, they're starting to age now, but their Achilles heel has been their pitching.
Like Baxter, pinch hitting for Dylan G, takes ball one.
And I don't know if they have enough pitching. They've improved their bullpen a little bit, more than a little bit, something that needed to be addressed. But I'm more concerned. Well, I'm not concerned. I'm very curious about their starting pitching.
And, you know, I think it's an open audition and has been to see who their number 3 starter is going to be. And Freddie Garcia really tossed his hat in the ring with a terrific effort today against the Red Sox.
And, you know, Freddie's a great story, and he doesn't throw hard. You know, the Mets had him in spring training 3 years ago and didn't make the club. And really, I thought his career was over, what I saw in spring training. And look what he's had done with the Yankees. And you know what? They can talk about the Yankees and their offense.
Baxter hits it out to right center.
But you know what? Their pitcher's got to pitch in that ballpark 81 games. So Freddie Garcia's had a very good year.
1-2-3 go the Mets in the bottom of the 6th. On to the 7th, 6-3 New York. The winners are Johnny Bench, Frank Thomas, Rod Carew, Mike Schmidt, Cal Ripken Jr., Ken Griffey Jr., Tony Gwynn, Reggie Jackson, Edgar Martinez, Randy Johnson, and Dennis Eckersley. Visit MLB.com/Pepsi Max for more information. That's the team that can come play on your field against your team. It's a pretty good unit.
Sounds like a bunch of ringers on that team.
Yeah. It's a tough group. Bobby Parnell on to pitch in the 7th inning for New York.
Well, Parnell now is starting to get worked more in the middle of the ball game. And I think Gary made the point that what Sandy Alderson said, that the closer will come from without the organization, not within, for next year. Probably.
Rollins, who's 3 for 3, drives one out to left center, and Pridey easing over. So Rollins retired for the first time in the game. One away. Well, Parnell wound up being the winning pitcher in game 1 today. Came in to get one out. Got Polanco to end the 8th inning with 2 men on. Now Ben Francisco bats for the first time. Came in the last half inning with Victorino leaving the game. Francisco at 246 for the year. So Dylan G in his final start of the season went 6 innings, allowed 3 runs, 2 of them earned on 9 hits, walked 2, struck out 2. Dylan's in line for his 13th win if the Mets bullpen can hold it. And if G gets his 13th win, he'll be the first Met rookie to win 13 since Doc Gooden in 1984. Doc won 17 that year. He finishes the year with an ERA of 4.43, certainly a lot higher than he'd like it to be, and higher than it was the first half of the season, that's for sure. But this was a game where you wouldn't have thought that G was going to last 3 innings the way he started, and he was able to persevere through 6, and that's certainly a good sign. Little roller by Francisco. Satin ranging wide to get it, and Parnell covers. 2 away. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Chase Utley. Utley has walked, reached on an error, and doubled off the center field fence.
Well, the Phillies certainly want to get this guy going. Get him turned on and in 5th gear. He's so critical, Utley, to the offense, and a number 3 hitter.
You wonder sometimes with Utley, though, with all the injuries he's had the last couple of years, is he capable of being that guy right now?
You can only hope. If you're the Phillies, it's a key ingredient.
Had the hip injury, had the knee injury, and now most recently hit in the helmet, kept him out for a week, and has not hit much since coming back. But obviously a huge piece of the Phillies offense. A Phillies offense that, with their 3 runs today, has scored 41 runs in the last 17 games. And that's just, even with great pitching, that's just not enough. And Parnell just misses. 2 balls and a strike. Charlie Manuel was a great hitting coach before he was a manager. By the way, speaking of his days as a hitting coach, you see the Indians announced they're going to put up a statue of Jim Thome outside Progressive Field. That's a nice honor for a guy who hasn't even retired yet. Utley thrown out by Tejada to end the inning. 7th inning stretch, 6-3 New York. Coming up on Monday night, the Mets open their series against the Cincinnati Reds. 6:30 the coverage on SNY for the opening game of that 3-game series to close out the season. Chris Schwinden will open the series for the Mets. Still looking for his first big league win. He'll go up against Homer Bailey. Chris Capuano pitches Tuesday night against Bronson Arroyo, and then Wednesday afternoon Miguel Batista against Edison Volquez in the final game of the year. Ruben Tejada up for the 4th time. Michael Stutz working his 2nd inning of relief. Pitched a 1-2-3 6th. Tejada singled in a run with a single to right in the 4th. Checking the National League batting race, Matt Kemp just struck out in his 2nd at bat in San Diego against Aaron Harang. So Kemp is 1 for 2. That knocks him back down to 326. Ryan Braun and Jose Reyes each at 330, with Braun slightly in front.
With this many at bats, you need big days. 2 for 4 will raise your batting average a point. You get your 1 for 4, you drop a point, you might even hold. Kemp needs a big day if he's going to have any chance for, obviously, it's a triple crown he's looking at, which would be the first time it's ever been done since 1937 by Joe Ducky Medwick of the St. Louis Cardinals.
It's funny.
In the National League, I should say.
When we were kids, you were a few years older than I was, but I was 8 when Frank Robinson won the Triple Crown for the Orioles in 1966. And then the next year, Carl Yastrzemski won the Triple Crown with the Red Sox. So you're 8, 9 years old. You see 2 guys win the Triple Crown back-to-back years. You think, this happens all the time.
Right.
And now it's 44 years later, and it hasn't happened since.
It's tough to do, obviously.
But it's a real tribute to Kemp, whether he does it or not, as Tejada lifts one toward that low fence, and it lands in the crowd. Because last year, Matt Kemp took an enormous step backwards. He had been an all-star player and a Gold Glover, and last year he was not that same player.
Well, he got in the doghouse too, and attitude issues. And one thing I noticed, he came in really great shape this year. He was fit as a fiddle, and I think determined, and it's reflective of his season.
And really, it's been from day one. He's played a Gold Glove center field again, and he's been stealing bases and hitting for power, and he's been right in the middle of everything for a Dodger team that hasn't had a whole lot else going on. And we ran the text poll a little earlier. We'll look at the results a little later, but it's amazing. The Dodgers are 2 games over 500, and they have every chance of having both the MVP and the Cy Young this year with Kemp and Clayton Kershaw.
And also ran
3-2 to Tejada, and he fouls another one off. Well, let's give you the results of our text poll, see what you folks think. And a majority now says that Clayton Kershaw should win the Cy Young, and I think that's right.
I'm in that camp.
Now, what do you think about Kemp at this point? Say he doesn't win the Triple Crown. Do you think he's still the MVP? Or do you think Ryan Braun or somebody else?
What about Fielder? Why is he being the forgotten man here? Fielder's had a terrific year.
I think that overall, if you look at the numbers, I think Braun's got a little edge over Fielder.
Okay, the batting average edge, of course. Fielder's driven in more runs, hit more home runs.
I think there's a sense that Braun's had the bigger hits.
Okay.
Including the home run that clinched the division last night. But you certainly can't argue against Fielder getting plenty of votes.
Correct.
I mean, there was a time a few weeks ago that I thought Justin Upton had to be in that conversation, if only because he's really the only big bat in that Arizona lineup. But his numbers haven't really kept up. Tejada drives one to right center, slicing away from Mayberry, diving to make the catch. Using those long Gary Maddox-like strides, Mayberry gets over to grab it, one away.
Well, it's called slicing away from him. He just got a good jump off the bat. And that is every bit of his stretch out there. Nice play.
So a 10-pitch at bat. Stutz gets a fine play made behind him against Tejada. Now here is Turner, who's 0 for 2 in a walk. And he takes ball 1.
You know, at one time Reyes was in the pitcher, but with the injuries have sidelined any consideration of Jose being an MVP.
Valdez handles the ground ball and throws out Turner, 2 out. It's 10 Mets in a row that have been retired. Well, there are the competitors, and yeah, we should put Pujols in that conversation too. He's won 3 MVPs, and he is finishing very strong.
He's going to drive in 100 runs, but I don't think he's going to get in the picture. I think it's these 3 right here. And Gary, we've talked about it before. Will these 2 guys on the same team cancel each other out?
Next year they may not have that problem because Prince may be elsewhere. Here's Willie Harris, 1 for 3. Well, if you're a Met fan and you're old enough, you remember 1988 when the Mets had 2 MVP candidates, and Harold Strawberry and Kevin McReynolds, and that's kind of what happened. They canceled each other out, and Kirk Gibson won the MVP.
Right.
And that's another thing the Mets have never had. No no-hitters, no batting champions, no MVPs.
Some Cy Youngs.
Valdez over near the railing, but it's back in the crowd. 1-2 to Harris. Now the 1-2, and Harris pops it up right near the mound. Who's going to grab it? And the pitcher. Don't see that often, but Stutz takes charge of it and makes the play to end the inning. 1-2-3 go the Mets. On to the 8th, 6-3 New York. Walk and a wild pitch to win in the bottom of the 9th, beat the Cubs 2-1. Meanwhile, Chen-Ming Wang shut down the Braves. That's beat Atlanta 4-1. So the Braves lead now 2 games over St. Louis, and the Red Sox continue to spiral downward. Beaten by Freddie Garcia and the Yankees 9-1. Miguel Montero drove in 4 runs. Derek Jeter hit a 3-run homer. So the Red Sox lead just 2 games pending Tampa Bay's result tonight. Hunter Pence first pitch swinging, grounds one out to Turner as we start the 8th inning, and Parnell has retired the first 4 to face him. Let's check in with Gary Apple. He's standing by with the New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. right, thanks, Gary. We'll keep our tabs on that. Meanwhile, here's John Mayberry, who's 0 for 3 in the game. So Parnell has come on and retired 4 in a row after Dylan G went the first 6 innings. And that misses inside 1-0. Well, Ryan Braun just doubled in a run in his 3rd official at bat of the night, and so he's going to extend his lead in that National League batting race. Braun 2 for 3 on the night, now up to 331. So he's now 2 points, or actually a point up on Reyes officially. He's at 33092. Reyes at 32950.
Which makes it
a point and a half now.
A little more difficult for Matt Kemp from that Triple Crown.
So Kemp is now about 4.5 points behind. Ball and a strike to Mayberry, who's 0 for 3. But Braun is finishing very strong. And, you know, credit to him and to Fielder. Those guys are playing the night after Milwaukee clinched last night.
And you know what? When you want a batting title, you got to play. You know, you had Ted Williams, that great story where the doubleheader, and he played the final 2 double games of the doubleheader. When you want to earn the batting championship, you don't want to. And he's not going to. If he didn't play tonight, he wouldn't be sitting on it. But you've got to play in it. You got to play. Now Reyes is a different story with the leg injury, but there's strike 3 right there, and Parnell looking very, very sharp.
So Bobby has his first strikeout, 2 out and nobody on.
I mean, if you've got a lead, you don't want to sit on it, and there is the strikeout and a hard slider.
And I think that Parnell's coming out of the game after facing 5 batters. With the left-hand hitter Glode coming up, Terry Collins is going to take the ball and bring in a left-hander. So a fine effort by Parnell, who got the victory in the first game, and here retires 5 in a row in the second game. Daniel Herrera will come in to face Glode. So the Mets with a 6-3 lead in the 8th with Herrera coming on. We'll be right back.
Through baller. Face left-handers here, and I think this is all about September and getting a look at people.
Charlie Manuel responds by sending up Carlos Ruiz to bat for Ross Glode to get a right-hand hitter up. Ruiz caught the opening game and went 1 for 3, hitting at .283 for the year. And it's rolled to the right side. Turner is there to grab it. And that retires the side. So Parnell and Herrera combined for 6 straight outs. It's 6-3 New York. Mike Pelfrey will make his final start of the year for New York. Roy Halladay goes after his 19th win for the Phillies. Changes for the Phils as we go to the bottom of the 8th. John Mayberry, who started the game in left, moved to center, now at first base. Michael Martinez plays center field. He'll bat 9th. And Justin DeFreitas will be on to pitch.
Well, a September call up here. Only 3 appearances, 2 innings. No strikeouts, 2 walks, as you can see. Hasn't given up a hit, so he's coming in to pitch the 8th inning here.
Pitched in Double-A and Triple-A this year. 25 walks, 99 strikeouts in 75 innings this year. David Wright will lead off in the home 8th inning. Michael Stutz worked 2 perfect innings in relief. Struck out a pair. So DeFreitas becomes the 6th Philadelphia pitcher of this game. Wright is 0 for 2 in a walk, 1 for 5 in the doubleheader. And DeFreitas bounces the first offering. Nick Evans on deck, then Josh Thole for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. And David takes a strike. DeFreitas had been a starter until this year and said he feels much more comfortable pitching in relief. Ball and a strike to Wright. DeFreitas 23 years old. 11th round pick by the Phillies in 07 out of junior college in California. Two balls, 2 strikes to Wright.
Yep. Very interesting doubleheader tomorrow. You are absolutely correct in that American League.
Looks like Tampa Bay just put their game away. Johnny Damon hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 8th, so it's Tampa Bay 6, Toronto 2. Breaking ball, strike 3 called. Wright didn't think so, but Wally Bell did. That's 10 strikeouts for Phillies pitching in this game. 1 out and nobody on.
Well, it's got the plate side corner. It's whether it was high or not. It didn't curve around the plate. And then we'll get the elevation here. Oh, well, that's a strike. That's belt high.
So DeFreitas strikes out the first man to face him. Now Nick Evans. Evans 1 for 3, doubled in a run back in the third. Mets scored 5 runs in the third inning, all of which were unearned after Hunter Pence dropped Willie Harris's fly ball in right field. Evans drove in a run with a double. Tolley drove in 2 with a single, and the Mets had the lead, and they have not looked back. Meanwhile, 12 straight Mets have now been retired. And Evans jumps back, a ball and a strike. David Herndon is on the hook in this game, even though he didn't allow an earned run. He gave up 4 unearned runs in 2/3 of an inning. And that dents the outside corner, 1-2 to Evans. By the way, we were talking about the possibility that the Dodgers could have both the MVP and the Cy Young this year. The last time that one team had both awards was in the American League in 2002, as Evans goes down on strikes, when Miguel Tejada won the MVP and Barry Zito the Cy Young. The last time it happened in the National League, you got to go back 20 years, 1991, when the Braves went from worst to first, and Terry Pendleton won the MVP, and Tom Clavin was the Cy Young. But of course, both those teams made it to the postseason.
Right.
The Dodgers will not. And I wonder if we'll can find out the last time that a team that didn't go to the postseason, if it's ever happened. I mean, we know that, last place teams have had MVPs and they've had Cy Youngs, but have they had them in the same year? 1-1 to Tolley. Geico Sports Night, your nightly source for all things New York sports. Tonight, much more on tonight's Met-Philly game and doubleheader, and everything New York sports on Geico Sports Night tonight after the postgame only on SNY. Tolley flares one foul, and it's 1-2. You tune in Geico Sports Night when you get home? Make sure you're up to date on everything.
I turn it on in the morning. I get home too late. I'm tired. So I always, in the morning, that's the first thing I do on DirecTV. Channel 639.
In comes Utley, makes the play on Tolley. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Justin DeFreitas, and we go to the 9th with the Mets looking for the doubleheader sweep. the ninth inning because Brian Schneider was due up, but Charlie Manuel announced Eric Kratz, a right-hand batter, as a pinch hitter. So Terry Collins is going to bring a right-hander into the game, and Manny Acosta will come in to try for his second save of the day. And we'll come back and watch Manny pitch in just a moment. Manny Acosta earned his third save of the year this afternoon. He'll go for number 4 tonight.
Yeah.
Manny had to work around a couple of 2-out base runners in the ninth inning in the day game, but ultimately protected a 2-1 lead. Eric Kratz, the pinch hitter.
Ooh.
And Manny gets ahead of him 0-2.
Nice breaking ball right there.
Kratz has had just 5 at-bats. A September call-up, extra catcher for the Phillies. He's batting for Brian Schneider. And he's quickly in a 2-strike hole. Finally lays off 1-2. Raul Ibanez out on deck to bat for Wilson Valdez. And then Michael Martinez hitting 9th in the order. And Kratz lines one into center field for a base hit. So second hit of the season for Kratz. And the Phillies have the leadoff man on in the ninth. Well, it's time for Keith's Train of Thought, brought to you by Acela Express. What's on your mind?
Well, our train of thought is we're looking at the wild cards. We've been talking about them both games. Boston with 5 games left, doubleheader tomorrow. Game and a half lead. 2 in the loss column. In the National League, you've got Atlanta with a 2-game lead with 4 to play over St. Louis. You want to be in the first place. You got the pressure on the team trying to chase you. You win, another day goes off the clock. They can't pick up a game, and another day gets off the schedule when you have 4 or 5 games, 3 games left. So you want to quit. Remember the movie Kelly's Heroes? When you had those crazy tankers, Donald Sutherland was saying to Moriarty, was played by Gavin McLeod, said, Moriarty, would you cut with the negative waves? When you're on top, you cut with the negative waves. You're in the driver's seat.
Wow, that was very well. That was like a train of thought.
It was.
You went from one station to the next, and you finally got to the terminal.
It's like going to New York, Penn Station, to 30th Street in Philly.
A little sidecar along the way.
Off on the DC.
Ibanez pinch hitting. It's 0-2. He takes it high. I thought you almost got derailed onto the Danbury line there, but you managed to get right back on track.
Very funny, Gary.
Ryan Howard has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter. So the Phillies letting loose the heavy artillery here in the ninth. Ibanez and then Howard. Ibanez played the first game today, went 2 for 4. 39 years old, 20 home runs. The oldest player in the majors this year with 20 or more home runs. And he checks his swing on a pitch away and stopped it in time. Scott Berry with the call. It's 2-2. All right, well, we have the answer. The last time that a team had both the MVP and the Cy Young from a team that did not make the postseason.
Oh.
They almost made the postseason. They got to a best-of-3 playoff, but lost to the Giants. The 1962 Dodgers. It sharply should be 2. Turner to Tejada and back to first for the 4-6-3 double play. So just like that, the Phillies are down to their final out. Let's check in with the studio, see what's coming up on Lincoln Postgame Live with Gary Apple and Bobby Ojeda. Thanks very much, Gary. Now Ryan Howard, the final hope for the Phillies, who are on the verge of losing their 8th straight game. Howard played the opener, went 1 for 4, and drove in the only Philadelphia run against R.A. Dickey. Acosta trying to close it out, and he gets ahead on Howard. In 1962, Don Drysdale won the Cy Young, which at that time there was only one given in the major leagues, and Maury Wills, who set the stolen base record that year, won the MVP.
And that was the year the Giants had Jack Sanford was their starter. Juan Marichal, I believe, won 18 that year. I believe Juan was 18 and 12 in 62. I think Jack Sanford won 20. I think Mike McCormick was a kind of a minor, kind of a spot starter back then.
McCormick later won a Cy Young in 67. 2 balls and a strike to Howard.
And of course, Mays in center, Felipe Alou in right. Jim Davenport at third, Jose Pagan at short, Chuck Hiller at second, Cepeda at first.
Sounds like that might have been your boyhood team. There's the 2-1, and Howard fouls it off, and the Phils down to their final strike. But the Giants, as they did in 1951, came from behind in the 9th inning of the last playoff game to beat the Dodgers. Dodgers made a couple of errors in that 9th inning, and the Giants scored 4 runs to beat them and advance to the World Series. Now the 2-2. Just missed. And a full count to Howard.
And of course, the Giants went on to the World Series and lost in 7 to the Yankees
by an inch.
And McCovey hit a bolt
2 feet to the left or right
off of Ralph Terry, right into the glove of Bobby Richardson, a leaping Bobby Richardson that would have won the game.
2-2 to Howard, and he fouls it off. By the way, it's a final in St. Petersburg. Tampa Bay beat Toronto 6-2, so the Rays now a game and a half behind Boston. The Angels can get within 2.5 of Boston. They lead Oakland 1-0 in the third. Right now, Terry Collins on the verge of watching his team sweep a day-night doubleheader from the Phillies. 3-2 to Ryan Howard. Just got a piece to stay in. Acosta trying to save it for Dylan G. It would be G's 13th victory of the season, most by a Mets rookie in 27 years. Again, the 3-2. And he walked him. And so the Phillies have a 2-out base runner with Howard aboard and Jimmy Rollins coming up. Keep in mind, Acosta threw 20 pitches in the 9th inning of game 1. Now up to 17 pitches in the 9th inning of game 2. Rollins is 3 for 4 in this game. Single to right, single to center to drive in a run and drop down a bunt single. Pete Orr is going to run for Howard at first base. So Orr, who pinch ran in game 1, does the same here in game 2. Phillies need one more base runner to get the tying run to the plate, with Ben Francisco on deck behind Rollins and Tim Burdack staying busy just in case it gets to Utley's spot, which is 2 batters away. And Rollins takes a strike. 96 from Acosta. G went 6 innings, allowed 3 runs, 9 hits. Bobby Parnell faced 5, retired 5. Daniel Herrera got his only batter. And now Acosta trying to finish it up. Worked around a hit and a walk in the 9th inning in game 1. He's given up a hit and a walk in this inning. Orr takes off. Mets will let him go. Defensive indifference moves him to second base. Now the 1-1 up and in. Well, Terry Collins, after the Mets finished their last homestand, ripped into his team, and since then the Mets have faced 3 of the best teams in the league, the Braves, the Cardinals, and the Phillies. They've won 4 out of 7 and about to make it 5 of 8 if Acosta can seal the deal.
I say he will.
And Rollins rips one down the right field line. Foul. Nice catch. Youngster brought his glove, and it came in handy. Sit through a long day of baseball, and with 2 out in the 9th, here's your reward.
Oh,
nice grab.
Nice backhand.
He surprised himself.
Look at that. Hey, look what I found.
That's outstanding. He was shocked that he caught that ball. And he can tell that story for the next 70 years.
Maybe 80.
Maybe 80. Dad's pretty proud, too. Even his brother looks proud. 2-2 to Rollins. Popped it up. Right comes into foul ground, and the ball game is over. And the Mets have swept a day-night doubleheader from the Philadelphia Phillies. Dylan G gets his 13th win. The Mets take advantage of an error to score 5 unearned runs in the 3rd, and the bullpen makes it stand up as Acosta gets 2 saves in a day, and the Mets hand the Phillies their 8th straight loss.
Well, the Mets Phillies out-hit the Mets 10-6, but it's all about the runs scored, and of course, the big inning for the Mets, the 5-run 3rd, was aided by an error by the right fielder Hunter Pence on a fly ball that he dropped. It opened the floodgates. The inning should have been over. 5 runs later, the Mets never looked back.
So the Mets able to shake hands twice in one day. Their 76th win of the year, their 3rd straight victory, and Terry Collins has to be very proud about the way this team has responded since he called them out a week and a half ago. They've gone 5-3 since then against 3 of the best teams in the National League. There's your Kia game summary. Dylan G, first Met rookie to win 13 games since 1984. David Herndon lost in relief. Acosta 2 saves in one day as the Phillies continue to take on water after clinching the division. They've now lost 8 in a row for the first time since 2000, 11 years ago. Mets win the nightcap 6-3 to complete the doubleheader sweep. We'll come back with more from Citi Field in just a moment.